Hey everyone, welcome to Down the Block Sports. This is another episode of the Alec Walt Show. Joining me, of course, is Alec Walt. Walt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. We had a big trade yesterday in the NBA. I've had some people here on the channel talking a lot of New Orleans Pelicans basketball, and they finally made that big move. We'll get into that shortly, but I'm excited, happy to have you back, and I'm looking forward to this show.
Absolutely, and you're talking big trade. This is, of course, NBA. We have Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, a couple of picks from the Pelicans going and getting Jonas Valanciunas. Walt, what are your thoughts on this initial trade? I know it's more than just Jonas himself there.
Yeah, I mean, Valanciunas is going with the 17th pick and the 51st pick. The picks included in the Memphis trade going with Adams and Bledsoe is the number 10, number 40, and a top 10 protected pick from the LA Lakers. So with guys like LeBron James, and hopefully they can get a deal done with Anthony Davis, it looks like that team will be going to the playoffs next year, and that draft pick will eventually be a first-round pick. This, for New Orleans, their objective this offseason was to find better talent around Zion Williamson, shed some of that dead money, and be active in free agency. And in this deal, it's exactly what they did. Valanciunas is having had a career season last year, averaging a career high in points and rebounds. He's also shoots 77.3% from the free throw line. So unlike Steven Adams, he's not a liability when he gets fouled. Adams and Bledsoe were supposed to go to New Orleans to be those two veteran physical presence. Well, they had some of their worst seasons of their career last year for the Pelicans. Bledsoe had his lowest points and rebounds and assists per game since 2012. He also tied a career high low in steals. Adam had his lowest points per game since his rookie season, the lowest free throw percentage of his career, and he tied for the lowest blocks per game in his career. I mean, it was a terrible year for those two, and they cost a lot of money. And let's be real here. Jonas Valanciunas next year is on a $14 million deal. His deal expires at the end of the year. Both Bledsoe and Adams make more money than that per year for the next 2 years. So the Pelicans get a more talented center. The Pelicans get a cheaper option. They get more money to spend in free agency. They've been rumored to go after a couple of these free agent point guards. So, still need to be questioned about Memphis' side here. I think who they draft is going to be extremely key in this deal. They better know who the heck they're getting at number 10, or this is going to look really dumb. But Jonas Valanciunas, in my opinion, is the most underappreciated big man in the NBA, and I absolutely don't think it's close. I think next year he'll get a little more national recognition playing alongside someone like Zion Williamson. He has the ability to shoot a three. I don't think he's a three-point shooter, but that part of his game has expanded a little bit. The crazy thing about Val, man, you get the ball to him in the paint or get the ball down low, he's going to score. He's going to find a way to get it. He's one of the most physical big men in the league. You know, we've seen a lot of plays when he was with the Grizzlies last year. Morant fed it to him in the low post. He had his back to the basket, spin, fade in, go toward a layup towards the hoop. He's so difficult to guard because he's so talented in the low post. He's so big that if it's one-on-one, he's going to get the ball in the basket. Let alone he's one of the better rebounders in the league, was third in the league this year in rebounds per game. So
really,
Zion got him due to him a stud this year alongside. Still, again, need to be questioning what Memphis is going to do here. Eric Bledsoe supposedly is not expected to return, even though I do think he fits a pretty solid role off the bench if he stays, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, Valanciunas, man, a guy people almost forgot was there in Memphis. Should definitely make some noise there in New Orleans.
Absolutely, man, and that's it sounds like New Orleans won the trade. I take it from your opinion.
In my opinion, it's dependent on the draft picks. Right now, I do think the winner of this deal is New Orleans. They get a better player who costs less, doesn't have years of money on the deal. You want to get the best talent around your young stars who are trying to improve, so you don't hear us down the road saying, oh, well, Zion and Brandon Ingram requested a trade, which is something New Orleans fans can't stand because, of course, we all know what happened with Anthony Davis, which is why they had that protected draft pick, which is now with the Memphis Grizzlies. So, if they draft, they have to nail these picks or it makes no sense, but, you know, like I mentioned before, Adams and Bledsoe make more money per year the next 2 years than Valanciunas makes next year. And Valanciunas is the better player.
Right.
So it's clear Memphis is building around Ja and Jaren. Jaren will be back this year, so maybe there were some questions about Valanciunas' next contract. I don't know. I'm not in the room. But right now, the easy winner here, in my opinion, is New Orleans. I think shedding that money, getting the better player, and now being active in free agency is huge for them, looking to take that next step with Zion Williamson.
And you mentioned the money aspect. If you haven't seen our other video, make sure you check that out. It was with Jordan of ESPN New Orleans, where you're talking the starting five was what, 93 million, was it?
Yeah, it was expensive. I mean, Adams and Bledsoe both made about 17, 18 million. I think Ingram's like close to 30, plus Zion, I think, is up there too. So, they had an expensive starting five. And unfortunately, it didn't play like it. New Orleans last year looked like the team that had the chance to make a serious jump. They wanted to add some veterans, improve the defense, and those two defensive-minded veterans were terrible. Like, had the worst years of their career level terrible. It was embarrassing. The Pelicans were absolutely embarrassing last year to watch. And hopefully Val can bring some of that intensity. He's a playoff experienced guy. I mean, last year, he had a career season in Memphis. I think just made it. Or actually, no, they did make it to the first round because they beat the Warriors in that play-in game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Val's been around. Again, he's massively underrated. But I think the biggest key here in what New Orleans is trying to accomplish, we've heard Kyle Lowry's name mentioned a bunch. Rumored wise, Shams has even mentioned that before, one of the biggest NBA writers in the world. If you want to convince stars to play for your team, you need the other stars there. And yes, they have Zion, they have Brandon Ingram, but, from a veteran standpoint, it's really not there. And Valanciunas, again, is an experienced veteran. He's one of the more underappreciated big men in the league. And we all know where he used to play, Toronto, which is where Kyle Lowry won a championship. So maybe they added him for the purpose of, yes, we now have the extra cap space, but we have someone who can help us convince to get that all-star level point guard. And maybe that does. We have to wait till free agency. But a little added wrinkle to this is Val used to play with a player you're trying to target in free agency. And I think that's another chess piece they can use to convince him to come to New Orleans.
Absolutely. And do you think, with a new veteran coming into the locker room, it's going to have a positive impact on Zion's performance? Or do you think Zion, is going to kind of have to develop and wait and see who they bring in other than just Valanciunas?
Well, you got to hope that they get in someone here better than Val, improve at the point guard position. Because if you don't have a dominant point guard in this league, it's going to be extremely difficult. They have the wing, they have the four, they now have the five. They need to get that guy that's going to make it all together and compete in the Western Conference. I mean, I had this conversation with Jordan Kleber. We mentioned 8 or 9 teams in the East, in the West, before the season even starts, that are better than New Orleans. Now, I think Zion's going to have more on-ball responsibilities next year. We've heard people say the point Zion, they need to do it more. I think with him, if he could stay healthy, he's going to be productive. We've seen it throughout his entire career. He unfortunately does have a little bit of an injury history. He's a big dude, explosive player. I think Val, opens the lane a little bit more for him. We saw at times their lane was almost too clogged in the paint with Steven Adams, because Adams can not really do much offensively outside of playing inside. Again, Val's an underrated passer. He can shoot. I don't recommend him shooting. But he can knock down shots a little bit more than Steven Adams. So hopefully that spaces things a little bit better for the Pelicans. But at the end of the day, the objective was we need to improve around Zion Williamson. We need to get guys that complement Zion Williamson. And it was very clear that Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe did not complement him. Now, Bledsoe wasn't added. Bledsoe was more in the Drew Holiday trade. So it wasn't like they actively went out him to bring him in. It was more they were getting rid of Holiday and they were getting those additional pieces from the Bucks. But the Adams trade looked a little bit more like someone who can make an impact right away. And the problem is neither of them did. I know the coaching situation last year in New Orleans was absolutely pathetic. I mean, hiring Van Gundy in the first place was stupid. And he was out in one season, which is completely embarrassing in professional sports. You see a 3-year window. If you're out in year one, that's embarrassing. So, hopefully this Willie Green hire can make a little bit of a difference here. But, I think Val complements Zion a little bit better. Again, he only has 1 year on his contract, so if this season just tanks, he can say "see you later," and you're in a worse position, because then you have Zion, who's already not fully happy, and then you have one of your better players leaving for potentially nothing. So hopefully things pan out for the Pelicans. So they have to deal with just more people leaving and heading out the door. But I think Val complements him extremely well, and I think people are going to start to realize who this Valanciunas kid is, because hopefully we can get some more national television with someone like Zion playing next to him in the starting lineup.
Absolutely. And what do you think that the Pelicans do on draft night then? How does this kind of open up moving from the 10th pick?
Well, I mean, I had a feeling they were going to eventually move back. I mean, we had this conversation with Jordan Kleber from ESPN New Orleans. He was actually pro trade up. He's like, get the best young asset you can get. And I was like, no way. We see it all the time, man. The Phoenix Suns were one of the youngest teams in basketball for a really long time. They added the veteran pieces like Chris Paul, Jay Crowder. And what do? They take that next massive step, but they take that step forward as an organization. You look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they have, the two young stars. They add Drew Holiday, they add Bobby Portis, they add PJ Tucker, they add some of the veterans with some winning experience, and it makes a huge difference. The Pelicans are too young. In the NBA, you can't be too young. It just doesn't work. You need to have veterans. You need to have guys who know how to win. You need to have role players who are physical, role players who are going to do the dirty work. And when you look at the Pelicans, like, yes, they're young. Yes, they're talented. But it's like, you needed more veteran guys. Now, from a draft perspective, once you get outside the top 5, top 6, it's like you have no idea what's going to happen. At that point, it's by system fit, who specific general managers like. So from a draft perspective, it's still it's wide open. The board's going to be all over the place at 17. That's just how it is. I mean, I personally wouldn't be opposed to them possibly moving again. They need to build a team that's going to win now. And I know they're not really in position to do that, but if there's a play-in game and they're not even making that far with two of the best young stars in the league, that's a huge problem, and we both know it. If you're losing in the NBA and you're a star player, they're going to get on the phone with their agent, and they're going to be wearing a new uniform in that next season. The Pelicans need to make sure that doesn't happen. So if they can find a way to get some more veteran talent, some more star talent around them by moving 17, I recommend doing that. But it seems like most of their roster is set. They're gonna be active in free agency, getting a point guard. Off the bench, they have Kyra Lewis and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who have the chance to be extremely talented young pieces. Eric Bledsoe not being on the roster does give them some more playing time. Which is very nice, because there were times last year, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker was that, spark plug. He averaged over 11 points per game last year. He was solid. Kyra Lewis showed some potential down the year. I still think him being in a backup role makes a little more sense, but, we're starting to see some roles start to come out in this team and starting to make a little more sense. So, last year I thought they had limitless potential and they sucked. So hopefully they can be a little bit better this year with Willie Green as head coach. But in regards to your question at 17, it's the 17th pick of the NBA draft. That's basically the best way I can explain it. It's like, I could give you 17 names that are probably not going to be on the board. So just do your homework, New Orleans, because I don't really know. You're unlikely going to get a starter day one with that pick. It's just, I think they're going to find another key role player. And, if you can flip that for a veteran to help Zion do something now, I think that's the direction they should go in.
So if they don't make the playoffs, is this more on the new coach, or is this going to be more on like the general manager with these acquisitions?
It depends on how they lose. I mean, if they're just getting blatantly out-coached like they were last year, I think you got to make a move there. I mean, David Griffin's doing the best he can with the assets he's given. He drafted Zion, They have the key pieces from the Anthony Davis trade. He's gone out and actively acquired a talented big man both seasons. Have they not translated? No, and I think that was a sign of piss poor coaching. And that was some of their fault last year. Now, obviously, I think Willie Green comes from such a strong base, like working with Steve Kerr, working with Monty Williams, building relationships with players around the NBA. So I do think a couple years of him working with this team is going to make a lot of sense. But I think David Griffin's on the hot seat big time. Because when you have young and talented players in the NBA like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and you're not even making it to a play-in game where the playoffs expand to 10 teams, like that's just ridiculous in my opinion. I think the New Orleans Pelicans year last year was flat out embarrassing. From the second they hired their head coach to the entire season last year, it didn't work. So hopefully some younger, progressive-minded head coach will do a little bit better here with this team. But if they don't do damage this year, I think David Griffin's gone. And I don't think anyone in New Orleans should be too upset with that, because they've had picks after picks after picks and young players and other players like that come in this organization, and it hasn't worked. So if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think David Griffin's gone. If they don't make the playoffs 2 years in a row, I think Zion's gone. So get to work, David Griffin. And I think getting someone like Val is a great step forward for this team.
Absolutely. And, for all of our viewers, thanks for tuning in. All 350 subscribers, we just broke that number. 351. Hey, all right. Good job, everyone. We appreciate you and, the support. Make sure you subscribe to Down the Block Sports, smack the notification bell so you never miss out. Walt, pleasure as always being on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you both for hosting today's show. I know the NBA draft is a couple days away. We have a big interview coming on the show later today with someone talking Scotty Barnes, someone who worked with Scotty Barnes all of last year at Florida State. So we'll get a little bit of the inside scoop there from my buddy Steven Rogers, a former graduate assistant. So that interview will be posted later today on Down the Block Sports. But yes, like this video, subscribe to the channel. We got some unbelievable content coming out very, very soon. Very, very soon. So, we're excited to be here. We're excited to keep rolling out some great content. So again, please subscribe to the channel for more here on Down the Block Sports. It's been an outstanding last couple months. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you, everyone. Make sure you stay tuned for a lot of exclusive content. That big interview is coming up shortly. So stay tuned on Down the Block Sports. We'll see you around, folks.